Welcome back to Savvy Seniors. Today we have the beautiful Ashley Kwong from Memory and Company in Oakville. Ashley is the founder and CEO, and we were just lucky enough to do an event at your gorgeous facility. How long have you been open in Oakville?
We just opened March 28th, so we're pretty excited to be open in this community, and we've been open in our Markham community since 2015.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today, Ashley. So you know that my father had Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's, and I went through a tremendous amount of, I guess, of stuff when it was discovered. And we didn't really have a lot of lead up to it. It just we discovered it very quickly, which is a little unusual. But so in your opinion, when do you think is the right time for people to start to look for additional help when they realize that their loved one has dementia?
There's never really a right time. You have to really look at the situation and what's going on first. I mean, the best scenario that you can do is the moment of diagnosis, start people looking at options, see what's out there, so it allows the person living with memory loss the option to choose what they want for themselves rather than having other people choose for them. But a lot of people are in denial of the disease and what's happening with them, and the timelines are very all over the place with the disease too, that you really don't know when to take certain steps. So it's really knowing your loved one, knowing the person diagnosed, knowing themselves, and making those steps for them. And then other families wait until there's crisis moments as well. So often, they'll decide to make these steps because mom's leaving the oven on, or dad's walked down the street and couldn't find his way home. And that's often the situation that we come. But the ideal is somebody planning a diagnosis, what they want, and at what point do they want to get additional help.
I think that denial part is very important. I think we all know when you're in a family situation and you notice that something is starting to deteriorate or change with someone, the first thing you want to say is, oh no, everything's okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big one to talk about for sure.
Well, you're absolutely right, because I definitely went through that denial with my father with the Lewy body dementia, because he was right on up until a couple of months prior, and then we started to see a couple of things, but there was more going on that my mother was not telling us at the time. So I didn't have the full picture. And then by the time that we found out, he was in full-blown crisis, and because of an onset of UTI. We'll leave it at that. But I think what people will probably want to know are, what is some of the things that you can say, oh yeah, I think that's dementia, because we're all forgetful, and we all forget names.
Don't look at me when you're talking about that. She's looking at me when she's talking about that.
But we all go through that, like, oh my gosh, is this the beginning of dementia? But really, what are some of the the really telltale signs that you start to see?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot from families. What I say to them is, it's when you forget, you're forgetting. That's when you start. So you don't realize that. Everybody loses their keys. Everybody forgets why they walked in a room, and they have to stand there for a minute and go, what did I come in here for? Right. That's super common. It's when you're driving down a familiar neighborhood and you forget why you were even there, or where did this, I don't even know what street to turn down, and it's familiar.
Okay,
or
I feel so much better now.
Putting strange things like putting the toothpaste in the freezer, or doing things that are out of sorts that might not be. And then the other telltale is executive functioning. Right. That's where most people really start noticing that there's a problem, is that they're no longer able to balance checkbooks, they're not able to, banking stuff, and poor decision making. Right. So getting into financial agreements that they probably wouldn't have done before, or buying things or stockpiling on Amazon things because they forgot they bought it. So I hear all sorts of different scenarios of what really triggered people to recognize that something was going on a little bit more than, you know, everybody's forgetfulness.
Yeah, talking about the bank books and Amazon and stuff, I hope my children aren't watching this.
Well, I noticed with my father, he was a numbers guy. And when he started not remembering his passwords, and you know, we all forget our passwords, God knows there's enough of them these days. But when he always had a budget spreadsheet, and he knew that budget spreadsheet, he'd been doing it for years. And when it didn't seem to make any sense to him, that I feel like that was the first aha moment. And then he needed a CPAP machine. And he had no idea how to function with that. And so those were some of the telltale signs. But so when, in the way of additional help, when you look to that, what are the resources? What are the things? What is that additional help look like?
Yeah, so I mean, Alzheimer's Society is a great resource, and you know, we have somebody here talking about that. So I mean, they can help with the initial conversation, speaking with your physician. But once, you know, all these initial diagnosis and getting an understanding of what's going on, and now it's at the point where the family needs help, or the person living with memory loss needs help with day-to-day functioning. Day programs are a great resource to really start, and we're often the first call family makes in saying, you know what, we need a little bit more help, or Dad's really isolated, or my husband is just so depressed lately. He's been a social and active person his whole life, and now his friends are stopped talking to him a little bit more because they're uncomfortable